The aliens came without warning. One moment Earth's skies were blue and empty. The next they were torn open by jagged black ships, larger than cities, blotting out the sun. These were no sleek silver saucers from old sci-fi movies. The alien armada was a nightmare of twisted metal and pulsing red veins like diseased monsters given flight. They descended on every continent, their weapons carving canyons through forests, deserts, and oceans. For weeks, humanity had watched the ships hover silently, frozen in fear and disbelief. Scientists argued. Politicians lied. Social media trends mocked the doomsday hype. Then, on a Tuesday morning, the lasers began. Cities burned. Tokyo melted into rivers of glass. New York Harbor boiled. Moscow vanished in a flash of green, fire that turned snow to steam. The world's armies fought back with missiles and jets, but the aliens' shields deflected everything. Soldiers died screaming. Civilians crowded underground tunnels, whispering prayers in dozens of languages. By the time the United Nations declared extinction-level war, 60% of Earth's population was already dead. But in the Arctic, beneath layers of ice and secrecy, a different story was unfolding. Deep in a forgotten bunker, a team of engineers and cadets huddled around flickering screens. The room smelled of stale coffee and rust. Pipes groaned overhead, dripping condensation onto cracked concrete. This was the last remnant of the Star Shatter program, a top-secret project abandoned decades earlier when governments decided building alien-grade warships was too expensive and probably paranoid. Now, it was Earth's only hope. Cadet Lena Park, 23, youngest recruit in the program, stared at the screen. Her fingers trembled. Beside her, Commander Reyes, a grizzled ex-pilot with a face like cracked leather, muttered curses in Spanish. "Launch sequence is live," Lena whispered. Her voice sounded too loud in the silent room. "But what if it doesn't work?" Reyes snorted. "What's the alternative? Let those cosmic roaches turn us into fertilizer?" He jabbed a finger at the screen, where live feeds showed alien drones swarming over Beijing's ruins. "We've got one shot, Park. Either this thing flies, or we all die as footnotes." The thing in question was buried under a glacier, a 10-mile-long warship called Starshatter 7 known. It had been built in pieces during the 2080s, when a panic over Martian independence scares led to wild military spending. When the panic faded, the project was scrapped. The ship's skeleton was left to rot, its blueprints buried under red tape. But Lena's team had spent the last decade scavenging parts, hacking systems, and surviving on expired protein bars to bring it back. A junior engineer named Javi suddenly shouted, "Wait! Look!" He pointed to a feed from Chicago. The aliens were herding survivors into glowing cages, their screams drowned by mechanical roars. "They're not just killing us, they're collecting us." Lena's stomach churned. She'd seen the reports. Humans weren't just dying. They were being taken to massive harvest stations where their bodies were dissolved into sludge. Why? No one knew. But the footage, grainy, gut-wrenching clips shared by dying soldiers, had gone viral before the internet collapsed. The message was clear. Surrender meant extinction. "Launch it," Lena said. Reyes nodded. "Fire up the reactor." The room plunged into darkness. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then the ground shook as ancient machinery groaned to life. Lights blazed. Alarms screamed. Deep beneath the ice, Starshatter 7 awakened. Above ground, the sky split open. It began as a shimmer above Lake Michigan, a distortion in the air like heat rising from asphalt. Then, with a thunderclap that shattered windows for miles, the warship erupted into view. Its hull was a patchwork of stolen alien alloys and salvaged steel, gleaming like a blade. Dozens of turrets rotated, their barrels smoking. Fighter bays yawned open, releasing squadrons of sleek dagger-like planes. The lead alien commander, a towering insectoid creature named Verkai, recoiled as its sensors overloaded. "Impossible," it hissed, mandibles clicking. "Their technology is primitive. They lack the resources to build The ship's voice boomed across the battlefield, cold and metallic. Humanity does not negotiate with pests. Beams of white-hot energy lanced down, vaporizing drones. Fighters dove through the carnage, led by Lena in a patched-together Viper jet she'd named Mochi, after the scrappy rescue cat who'd wandered into the bunker 6 months ago. The cat now sat in her lap, pawing at a dangling wire. "Focus, Mochi," Lena muttered, yanking the controls into a sharp dive. Alien fighters scattered like moths. "You're not helping," the battle raged. For every alien ship destroyed, 3 more took its place. Verkai rallied its hive, hurling biomechanical leechcraft at the destroyer. Jellyfish-like horrors that clung to the hull and gnawed through armor. Inside the command bunker, Reyes barked orders as alarms blared. "They're targeting the core reactors," he shouted. "Park, get that cat out of the cockpit before it—" A deafening explosion rocked the room. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Mochi yowled, leaping onto a control panel and knocking over a coffee mug. Liquid sloshed across switches, which suddenly rebooted the shields. "Wait," Lena gasped, staring at the screen. "The dampeners. He just rerouted power." Reyes froze. "Are you serious?" The cat pawed at a sparking wire, triggering another system reboot. Lights flickered. Defenses surged. "Deadly," Lena whispered. He's hacking the ship. Accidentally." Reyes stared at the cat. Mochi blinked back, fur singed, tail twitching like a metronome. "Well," the commander said slowly, "I'll be damned. We might just survive this." But victory was a mirage. By nightfall, the aliens adapted. Verkai's leechcraft learned to avoid the shields, boring into engine rooms and crushing crews. A destroyer exploded near Berlin, its debris raining on Paris. Lena's Viper took a glancing hit over Moscow, forcing her to crash land in a forest of skeletal trees. Mochi survived, of course, unscathed as always, and already batting at a piece of shrapnel like a toy. Back in the bunker, Reyes received the final transmission from Starshatter 7-ER. "Reactor breach, evacuate." The screen cut to static. The war was lost, or so everyone thought. Lena stumbled into the bunker days later, frostbitten and half-mad, Mochi tucked into her coat like a furry scarf. She carried a single idea. "We cheated once. We can cheat again." Reyes raised an eyebrow. "How?" She grinned, wild and desperate. "We use the cat." The bunker reeked of burnt circuitry and desperation. Lena Park stood over a table littered with tools, schematics, and a half-eaten protein bar. Mochi sat beside her, licking his paw like a furry king surveying his kingdom. Across from them, Commander Reyes paced, muttering curses that made even the engineers flinch. "We've got 1 ship left," Reyes growled. "Starshatter 6 buried under Greenland, but it's half-functional. No shields, no weapons, just a rust bucket with delusions of grandeur." "And the aliens?" Lena asked, though she already knew the answer. Reyes spat on the floor. "They're adapting. Their leechcraft are learning to dodge our beams. By morning they'll swarm every destroyer we've got." He jabbed a finger at Mochi. "So either this furball's a miracle worker, or we're all dead." Lena scooped up the cat, holding him eye to eye. "You accidentally rerouted power last time. If we can teach you to do it on purpose." Mochi blinked slowly, then sneezed. The Mad Plan. By dawn, the team had rigged a prototype, a drone programmed to mimic Mochi's movements. The cat's chaotic leaps and pawing would translate into erratic maneuvers, confusing alien targeting systems. It was insane. It was desperate. It was the only thing left. "Call it Project Chaos," Lena declared. Reyes snorted. "Call it suicide with whiskers." The plan was simple. Sneak Starshatter 6 into the battle near Moscow, where the aliens were building a harvest station to convert humans into sludge. Lena would pilot the ship's last Viper, with Mochi strapped to a custom harness wired into the drone. Every twitch would send the Viper and the destroyer into unpredictable patterns, turning them into moving targets the aliens couldn't predict. "If this works," Lena said, strapping into her cockpit. "We'll be ghosts in a storm." "If it doesn't," Reyes muttered. "You'll be ghosts." The Battle of Moscow. The sky above Moscow was a swirling maelstrom of fire and smoke. Alien leechcraft clung to Starshatter 7, like barnacles on a sinking ship, their tentacles boring into the hull. Verkai's voice echoed from 1,000 speakers. "Surrender, vermin. Your deaths will feed our empire." Inside the crippled destroyer, engineers fought fires with fire extinguishers and sheer willpower. Javi, the junior engineer, screamed as a leech broke through the floor, its mandibles snapping. Reyes shot it point blank with a welding torch. "Park," he barked into his radio. "If you're coming, come now." Chaos unleashed. Starshatter 6 emerged from hyperspace. With a deafening roar, its hull patched with scrap metal and prayers, Lena's Viper darted ahead, Mochi yowling in his harness as the drone translated his every squirm into wild, evasive maneuvers. "Come on, buddy," Lena whispered, gripping the controls. "Be weird," Mochi obliged. He sneezed, then launched, himself sideways into a control panel. The Viper spun like a top, dodging a laser that would have vaporized it. The drone synced the movement, jerking Starshatter 6 into a corkscrew roll. Alien fighters overshot, colliding midair. "It's working," Lena shouted. Reyes, watching from the crippled destroyer, grinned like a madman. "Feed 'em chaos." The Furious Dance. The battle became a surreal ballet. Vipers danced. Through leechcraft swarms, Mochi's random leaps making them untouchable. Starshatter 6 weaved through the chaos, its turrets firing blindly but accurately, guided by the drone's translation of Mochi's movements. Inside the Viper, Lena struggled to keep the cat focused. Don't nap," she pleaded as Mochi flopped onto a control panel, triggering a sudden dive that sent 2 leechcraft crashing into each other. Meanwhile, Starshatter 6 closed in on the harvest station, a towering structure of pulsing veins and human-shaped pods. Verkai watched from his command ship, mandibles twitching. This cannot be," he hissed. "Their movements are illogical. Our AI cannot predict." A Viper slammed into his view, Mochi's paw smacking a button that fired a missile directly into the harvest station's core. The explosion lit the sky. The cost of chaos. The victory was Pyrrhic. Starshatter 6 limped away, its engines failing. Lena crash-landed the Viper in a crater, pulling a singed but smug Mochi from the wreckage. Back in the bunker, Reyes received the news. Harvest station destroyed. But we're out of ships. For a moment, there was silence. Then Verkai's voice boomed from every speaker, raw with fury. "You have made an enemy of the hive. We will return with legends." The feed cut. Lena stared at Mochi, who was now chewing on a piece of shrapnel like a chew toy. "We won a day," she said quietly. "Not the war." Reyes nodded grimly. "But a day's enough to build a better miracle." He turned to the engineers. "Start digging. There's an old Russian warship buried under Lake Baikal, and if we're lucky, it's got a reactor." The hidden hope. As the team scrambled, Lena sat alone in the wreckage of her Viper, Mochi curled in her lap. She stared at the stars, wondering how many more days they'd have before the aliens returned. Somewhere in the dark, a damaged alien pod drifted silently, its black box recording, a final warning: beware the species that fights with chaos and fur. The aliens returned faster than anyone expected. Verkai's warning had been no bluff. Within weeks, a new armada descended, a fleet of sleek silver ships shaped like scythes, designed to cut through chaos. Their AI had studied Project Chaos, reverse-engineered Mochi's erratic patterns, and learned to predict unpredictability. The humans' advantage was gone, and worse, Starshatter 6 was dead in the water. The Russian ghost ship beneath. Lake Baikal's icy surface, the engineers found what they were looking for. Star Shatter HFY War, a Soviet relic from the 21st century, buried when the Cold War went hot and then cold again. Its reactor was intact, but its systems were ancient. Worse, its AI had gone feral. It's hostile, Javi muttered, staring at the screen as the ship's voice boomed from rusted speakers. Identify yourself, capitalist swine. Reyes rolled his eyes. Great, a communist warship with a personality. Lena knelt beside Mochi, who was pawing at a Russian wrench. If we can link this AI to the drone, maybe Mochi can stabilize it. Or get us all executed by a 100-year-old computer. Reyes grumbled, but they had no choice. The Feral System. Inside. Star Shatter 5. The air reeked of mildew and nostalgia. Posters of hammer and sickle logos peeled from walls. Engineers scrambled to reboot the reactor while Lena and Mochi approached the central console. The AI flickered to life, a pixelated face with a thick mustache and a scowl. State your business, American puppet, it barked. Lena held up Mochi. This is Comrade Cat. He's, leading the revolution. The AI paused. Then, slowly, its face softened. A feline comrade? A symbol of the proletariat? Mochi sneezed. Glorious, the AI roared. To victory with whiskers and fists. The ship powered up. The alien counterstrike. As Star Shatter 5 rose from Lake Baikal, the aliens struck. Verkai's new fleet descended on Moscow, their ships weaving through the atmosphere like synchronized dancers. Beams of energy carved through the ruins, targeting the human bunkers. Reyes shouted orders as engineers scrambled to load Star Shatter 5 with weapons. They're adapting, he barked. Their AIs learned to predict Mochi's moves. Lena stared at the screen. Sure enough, the aliens dodged every Viper maneuver. Their lasers always one step ahead. We need more chaos, she whispered. Then Mochi yowled and knocked over a box labeled Emergency Biosuits. Inside were suits designed for Martian, terraforming teams, each rigged with motion sensors. Lena grinned. We're not just using cats anymore, we're building an animal army. The zoo of war. Within hours, the bunker became a menagerie. Engineers rounded up every stray animal they could find. Dogs, birds, even a raccoon that had been stealing snacks from the break room. Each was suited up in a biosuit, wired to the drone network. Lena dubbed them Chaos Units. This is insane, Reyes muttered, watching a golden retriever sprint across a control panel, triggering evasive maneuvers in Star Shatter 5 Wow. Insane works, Lena said. Aliens can't predict a pack of random animals. The plan was simple. Launch the animal squadrons in swarms. Their movements translated into chaotic flight paths that overwhelmed the alien AI. Dogs would zigzag. Birds would dive unpredictably. The raccoon, dubbed Agent R, would just cause trouble. The Battle of the Black Sea. The aliens struck near Crimea, their scythe ships slicing through the waves. Star Shatter 5 rose to meet them, flanked by Vipers piloted by human crews and their new partners. Lena's Viper led the charge, Mochi strapped to her lap. Behind her, a golden retriever named Sasha barked wildly in her cockpit, triggering sudden. Shoals Agent R, the raccoon, clung to a missile launcher, shrieking as he fired indiscriminately. The alien AI faltered. Error. Detected unexpected variable. Raccoon. Initializing panic protocol. The scythe ships staggered, their formations, breaking. Star Shatter 5 seized the moment, firing a beam that tore through 3 alien vessels, but Verkai wasn't done. You think chaos is yours alone, he roared. Meet your end in order. He launched a swarm of logic drones, perfectly. Symmetrical machines designed to counter randomness by mirroring. The animals' chaos tactics began to fail. The final gambit. Reyes, Lena shouted over the comms. We need more variables. Reyes stared at the raccoon, who was now chewing on a live grenade. Try. Unpredictable. Lena closed her eyes and released the animals. She unbuckled Mochi, Sasha, and Agent R, letting them run wild across the controls. The Viper spiraled into a death-defying corkscrew, dodging lasers by inches. Starshatter 5 followed suit, its AI cackling as it mimicked the animal's madness. The logic drones overloaded, trying to predict the impossible. The cost of madness. The battle left the humans battered but victorious. Starshatter 5 limped back to base, its hull scarred. Half the animal squad was missing. Sasha had jumped out mid-flight to chase a seagull. Agent R was still missing, last seen hoarding stolen grenades in a supply closet. But the aliens were retreating, for now. Verkai's voice crackled over the radio, bitter and broken. This is not the end. You have made a machine of madness. But even madness falls. Lena stared at Mochi, who was napping atop a pile of metals. He's right, she whispered. They'll adapt again. Reyes nodded grimly. Then we'd better build something even we can't predict. He turned to the engineers. Start building. We're not just making warships anymore. We're making monsters. The Hidden Hope. As the team scrambled, Lena sat alone by the lake, Mochi curled in her lap. She stared at the stars, wondering how many more days they'd have before the aliens returned. Somewhere in the dark, a damaged alien pod drifted silently, its black box recording a final warning. Beware the species that fights with chaos and fur, and now, teamwork. The aliens regrouped. Verkai's armada retreated to the far side of the moon, licking its wounds. For weeks, Earth survivors celebrated their victories. The harvest station destroyed, the logic drones overwhelmed, the animal armies, chaos tactics etched into legend. But Lena Park knew better. The aliens weren't done. They were building something, and so were the humans. The Monster Factory. Deep in the Siberian tundra, the bunker had become a madhouse. Engineers welded scrap metal into jagged exoskeletons. Biologists spliced alien DNA with Earth's fiercest predators. Mochi, now a war hero with a medal dangling from his collar, napped atop a pile of blueprints labeled Project Hybrid Nightmare. Reyes stomped through the chaos, shouting over the clang of machinery. We need results, not science experiments. What have we got? Javi, the junior engineer, held up a twitching spider the size of a dog. This one's a prototype. We call it, Arachnodoom. Reyes stared. It looks like a nightmare you get after eating expired rations. Effective, though, Javi insisted. 8 legs, plasma spit, and it hates aliens. Lena knelt beside a tank filled with glowing green liquid. Inside floated a shark with cybernetic fins and a laser eye. What about this? Neuroshark, said Dr. Kim, the lead geneticist. Trained to hunt alien ships via sonar, it's enthusiastic. Reyes groaned. We're turning animals into weapons now? Lena met his gaze. They're saving us. Again. The alien counterstrike. The attack came at dawn. Verkai's new fleet descended not from the sky, but from beneath the earth. The aliens had tunneled up through the oceans, deploying bioborers, worm-like machines that devoured cities from below. Tokyo collapsed into a sinkhole. New York's subway system became a nest for acid-spitting drones. The humans scrambled. Lena launched her Viper, Mochi strapped to her lap, as Starshatter 5 rose to meet the invaders. But the aliens had evolved. Their ships no longer flew, they swarmed, mimicking insect colonies, adapting to every attack. They're learning faster than we can build, Reyes growled, watching the feed from Moscow. We need the monsters now. The debut of the hybrids. The first test was Arachnodoom. Javi released the spider creature near Berlin's ruins. It skittered up a crumbling skyscraper, 8 eyes glowing red. Below, a bioborer surfaced, a writhing worm with serrated jaws. Arachnodoom leapt, sinking its fangs into the machine. Acidic blood sprayed. Both exploded in a fireball. "Okay," Javi whispered. That worked better than expected. Next was the neuroshark. Dr. Kim deployed it into the Atlantic where alien borers were devouring Miami's skeleton. The shark dove deep, its laser eye scanning. A borer lunged. The shark spun, tearing through its hide with cyber fins. Within minutes, the ocean was littered with glowing wreckage. Reyes watched the feeds, stunned. They're actually winning. But Lena's plan had a flaw. The cost of monsters. The hybrids weren't perfect. Arachnodoom escaped after Berlin, vanishing into the forests. Survivors reported strange chittering noises and missing livestock. The neuroshark, after destroying the borers, turned on a fishing boat near Cuba. They're predators, Dr. Kim admitted. We made them too good. Lena clenched her jaw. We'll deal with that later. Right now they're saving lives. But the worst mistake was Agent R. The raccoon, still hoarding grenades, had hacked into Star Shatter 5 byte systems during the last battle. Now he'd rerouted the ship's AI to play an endless loop of 20th century cartoons. "Reyes," Lena shouted over comms. "The ship's firing missiles at clowns in the ocean." Reyes facepalmed. "I told you to neuter that thing." The final frontier. The battle reached Antarctica. Burkai's flagship emerged from the ice, a colossal fortress bristling with weapons. Its voice boomed across the continent. "You have twisted nature to your will, but you cannot twist the truth." A hologram flickered above the battlefield, footage of Earth's cities burning, civilians screaming, the harvest station's horrors. "You think you're fighting for survival," Burkai hissed, "but you are no better than us. You become what you hate." Lena froze. The monsters, the genetic experiments, the animals turned into weapons. Was the alien right? Then Mochi sneezed and knocked over a control panel, triggering Star Shatter 5 warriors. Self-destruct sequence. "No!" Lena yelped, scrambling to stop it. "Not today." The suicide run. Reyes barked orders. "Park, get that cat under control. We're launching the hybrids." Lena stabilized the ship just in time to see Arachnodoom, the neuroshark, and a squadron of animal pilots launch into the Antarctic sky. Their mission: infiltrate the alien flagship through its underbelly where its shields were weakest. Inside the flagship, chaos erupted. Arachnodoom skittered through ventilation shafts, tearing apart drones. The neuroshark rammed the reactor core, its laser eye drilling into containment walls. Agent R, finally caught by engineers, squealed as they strapped him to a missile. "Target, Furkai's throne room," Reyes muttered. "Fire the raccoon." The missile launched. The fall of Furkai. The flagship exploded in a chain reaction. Furkai's scream echoed across the ice. "No!" before he was swallowed by fire. On the ground, Lena watched the debris fall, her hands trembling. The war was over. The aliens were retreating. But the cost? Mochi pawed at her cheek, purring. She sighed. "You're a menace. But you're a menace." The hidden hope. As the team regrouped, Reyes stared at the horizon. "This isn't the end. They'll come back." Lena nodded. "Then we'd better build something even they can't copy." She turned to Dr. Kim. "Start researching. We're making hybrids that can think, not just monsters, allies." Meanwhile, far beneath the ocean, a damaged alien pod drifted, silently. Its black box recorded a final warning. "Beware the species that fights with chaos and fur." And now, evolution. The war was over, but Earth would never be the same. The aftermath. Smoke still hung in the air above Antarctica, where Star Shatter 5 and its hybrid army had torn through Furkai's flagship. The ice below was scorched, littered with alien debris and the twitching remains of Arachnodoom, who'd somehow survived the blast and was now busy knitting a nest out of severed drone limbs. Lena Park stood on the frozen wasteland, her boots crunching over ash. Mochi, draped in a tiny cape stitched from a UN flag, purred in her arms. Behind her, Commander Reyes lit a cigarette with a shard of alien crystal. "We won," he muttered, half in disbelief. "We actually won." "Not all of them," Lena said, nodding at the sky. Dozens of alien ships limped into orbit, fleeing toward deep space. "But they'll think twice before coming back," Reyes snorted. "Unless they bring bigger bugs, the world rebuilds." In the months that followed, humanity scrambled to rebuild. Moscow's ruins became a monument, its shattered buildings left as a warning. Tokyo's sinkhole was sealed with alien alloy, repurposed into a new city called Neo-Tokyo. In the US, survivors converted abandoned malls into farms, while engineers in Brazil rigged solar panels to power makeshift hospitals. But the strangest changes were the hybrids. Arachno-Doom's descendants roamed the forests, hunting invasive species. The neuroshark, now dubbed Guardian of the Atlantic, patrolled shipping lanes, sinking pirate ships and nuclear subs alike. Even Agent R had found purpose. After a brief stint as a grenade-hoarding fugitive, he'd been captured and put in charge of a bomb disposal squad. "They're not monsters," Dr. Kim insisted during a press conference. "They're guardians, evolution's next step." Critics called it playing God. Supporters called it survival. Lena stayed out of the debates. She spent her days training a new generation of cadets, teaching them to fly Vipers and decode alien tech. Mochi, now a national icon, napped atop her desk, his medal collection rivaling that of any war hero. The alien warning. Not all the invaders fled. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a damaged alien pod drifted silently. Its black box recorded one final message. Beware the species that fights with chaos, and fur, and evolution. They do not win by strength. They win by refusing to lose. The pod's AI transmitted the warning across the galaxy, its signal bouncing between dead stars. Somewhere in a distant empire, a new commander listened. "Earth is not ready," the commander hissed, "but we will be." The final test. Years passed. Humanity thrived. The Star Shatter program expanded, its warships now crewed by soldiers, scientists, and, critically, a squadron of Chaos Cats trained to stabilize AI systems. Lena became commander of the first interstellar fleet, her flagship a rebuilt Star Shatter 7-0, its hull adorned with a paw print insignia. But peace was fragile. One night, as Lena walked through the rebuilt bunker, she paused at a screen showing the edge of the solar system. A blip appeared, small, fast, and heading inward. "Alien probe?" she asked. Javi, now a grizzled engineer, shrugged. "Or a gift, or a bomb. Take your pick." Lena stared at the screen. "Launch a Viper. I'll handle it." Mochi yawned, leaping onto her shoulder. The legacy. The story of Earth's defense became legend. Schoolchildren learned how a cadet, a cat, and a ragtag team of misfits had outwitted an empire. Comedians joked about the day aliens got schooled by a raccoon. Historians debated whether the hybrids were heroes or horrors. But for Lena, the truth was simpler. "We didn't win because we were stronger," she told a reporter during a rare interview. "We won because we adapted. Because we used everything we had, even the things that purred." Mochi, now 20 years old and somehow still alive, sneezed on cue. The hidden hope. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't the Star Destroyers, the hybrids, or the Chaos Cats. It was stubbornness, the refusal to surrender, the courage to try the absurd, and the knowledge that even in the darkest hour, hope could come from the unlikeliest places, even a cat knocking over a coffee mug. As Earth's fleets patrolled the stars, Lena often returned to the Arctic bunker. She'd sit in the old command chair staring at the ceiling where someone had spray-painted a single phrase, "If in doubt, let the cat drive." She smiled every time, because the universe was vast and the aliens would return. But next time, they wouldn't just face humanity. They'd face a galaxy where chaos wore fur, and it was ready